stand. Unify and have a peaceful home. Change is all we need to make a stand. Let's unify and have a peaceful home. Sweet Liberia, land of liberty is my home.
All right, Mr. George, how you doing today, boss?
I'm doing very great, Mr. Sherry. It's been a very busy weekend, but it's a wonderful time to be here on station, in studio. I want to extend our greetings to all those of you who are listening to us on YouTube, Facebook, and joining us is Freedom FM 89.7 in Liberia. Yeah, so it's been a kind of busy weekend actually, but it's good.
Well, good to have you guys here. And today, basically, I like to always kind of point people to the name of the platform. Our platform is called Liberia Shall Rise. And it is not just a catchy name that we chose. We truly believe in the potential of Liberia. We truly believe that all the pieces are there. And maybe we just need to just move a little forward to the right, and we might be able to do some things. So when we come here to discuss issues about Liberia, it is not to denigrate Liberia, it's not to bring the country down, but to highlight some of those ills that we see in society that we truly believe need to be corrected. But today we are not going to be doing anything to shift blame of anyone, but we are just going to be looking at some of the things that each of us, chances are, we have actually been impacted by it, whether us directly or our family members. Mr. George, you were just in Liberia. It's still rainy season in Liberia. That's my understanding.
Yes, it is still the rain season in Liberia, but and because of climate change, which we're going to discuss, there are several things that are happening that you and I may not have seen while growing up. Let me just correct myself. Freedom FM is 87.9. There where we are relaying in your homes right now. But yeah, not by September in Liberia, the rain start to subside. And then right now in October, we go into the lightning and thunder. So that's why when people were born in October in Liberia, they say that you're very loud. So you go into lightning and thunder. But it was raining while I was in Monrovia. It was raining. I think I got into Monrovia September 3rd. It rained almost throughout the time I was there. But normally, before the civil crisis, at this time we started to see the rain abating, going into a little bit, not too much rain, and then in October we have the lightning and thunder, and then rain season comes to an end, and we go into Hamilton. Even though we have 2 seasons, dry season and rain season, but the dry season starts with Hamilton, where the Hamilton season, where you have all people skinned in white.
They're calling that a Pepe. You're trying to be politically correct.
The time of the Pepe, it's nice to go. That's when we used to leave Monrovia to go on vacation in the rural areas, and it used to be cold, whether you are in Bond Mines or you're up there in Yekepa, and the weather was nice and beautiful, kind of cold. That when we wore a big jacket, and like our friends in South Africa are doing right now.
Yeah, so again, we want to welcome to all of our viewers, all of our guests, those of you joining us on radio in Liberia. We say welcome to the broadcast. If you've never heard of Liberia Shall Rise, we encourage you to really log on to Facebook and look for Liberia Shall Rise and follow some of the programs that we do on this platform. But today, I really want to start the show maybe with a little bit of fun. I remember as a kid, as a little boy in Monrovia, in Liberia. Let me go to Liberia because I never tell people I'm from Monrovia. I'm from Grand Bassa County. In Buchanan, I remember when the rain started to fall, us as little children back then would be running around in that rain, singing our little song, rain, rain, go up, but come down, and we'll just enjoy that rain. And that was just a childish thing that we did. We enjoyed it. We never worry about flooding. We never worry about those things that are taking place now. And I'm not going to come and tell you that it was all rosy, to tell you that the drainage system was perfect, but that was not our concern. That was not something that we look at. But over the past 5 years, Mr. George, I think we have seen something in the country, and it just continued to get worse over time. America, for example, is not an exception. The whole world is experiencing this thing. Right now, as we speak, your other state, North Carolina, you have, I mean, I think it's South Carolina and Georgia, all of those places are still going through the effects of the hurricane that we just had. So, but let's be specific with Liberia. The situation with flooding has just continued to increase. It just seems as though every year it just increases in volume and the area that it is covering.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's an increase in the volume of flooding in Liberia. Situation is yeah, we have been experiencing this, so I know people will quickly want to point to current government, but we've been experiencing this for a while. I mean, in 2002 and 2022, BBC VOA had an expensive report on the flooding situation in Liberia that left 50,000 people homeless. We've been having this situation for some time, and there are several factors that we will want to discuss on this program as we uncover the situation, so that our listeners and other people can understand. And actually, yeah, definitely, we've been experiencing an increase in we cannot. I mean, the rain season, we cannot scientifically tell like before when it start or when we end. We're experiencing heavy rainfall, and again, it's not only in Liberia; it's all around the world. The temperatures are changing. Some countries are hotter than other places, than other places. But yes, we have this situation in Liberia, and it's a serious situation that is going on, and it's hard time to start to have this conversation because this is something that's been going on in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and it's important that we start to have frank conversation on it, so our people could be aware and learn from what they say. Now, what I want to put out there is that we did reach out to the Environmental Protection Agency. We did reach out to some of the staff to come and have a conversation here. Unfortunately, we didn't get a feedback. So we, Mr. Sherry and I, we are not environmental people. We are we're going to use the research we have done, the videos that we seek on flooding the internet, and so have this conversation. And if the people at the EPA wants to have the conversation, which they should do, and that's what they are being paid to do, they could follow the conversation either by coming on Freedom FM the 7.9 or going on other shows, so our people can be educated to the situation. But on cover is going in the news. You read in the newspaper, you have been seeing in the newspaper the flooding situation in front of the Monrovia City Corporation, on the Tottenham Boulevard sinker. You saw the flooding situation going in Riverside and other parts of the country. You have read it, but we're going to spend some time going deeper into it right now.
Yeah. So, Mr. George, again, I don't know, for some reason, I really want this to sink in. This is not an indictment on one administration, but this is a problem that we need to try to solve. Just one of the reports I was looking at, even though we are being specific to Liberia, but this year, the flooding, it just took over Central and West Africa in general. Yeah. Both Central and West Africa was really hit hard with the flooding. And, I remember President Tinubu, he even had to go survey certain areas in Nigeria just because of the devastation that took place with the flooding. So Mali, Niger, Liberia, Chad, Cameroon, all of those countries, they were heavily hit. So I just want to make that point so people understand that this is not a Liberia problem. There are some problems that would say it is specific to us. Now, are there things that we can do to make it better? I believe there are things we can do to make it better. And so, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
you're right, Mr. Sheriff. I mean, I was not deeply involved, but somehow involved with the issue in Nigeria. In Maiduguri, they had a serious flooding situation in Maiduguri. My friends and I from the interaction had to donate over 2 million naira had to raise over 2 million naira to donate a million naira towards getting medicines to a lot of people were displaced. It was a serious situation in Maiduguri. So you're right, in northern Nigeria, the issue of flooding was extremely high. It displaced thousands of people. And I can say that because We had one of our friends on the front line. She and her medical crew was moving in there, and definitely we had to raise almost 2 million naira to support that situation right there in northern Nigeria. So your research is right. In West African in West Africa, we see a lot of flooding situation going on. There was a lot of rainfalls and a lot of flood going on.
Yeah, so let's be specific. Let's come back home. Let's come back to Liberia. And one of the things that have actually, I want us to kind of touch base on before we go to our video, one of the things I want us to touch base on, there are a lot of different impacts because the everyday Liberian will probably say, what's the big deal? I know most Liberians, they are engaged in politics. They want to hear the political things that are taking place in the country. So when you get on the radio, you start talking about flooding, they'll say, what's the big deal? It happens every year, right? This may not be a topic that people may even take seriously. But let's look at just two impacts, right? Let's look at the medical impact that this flooding actually brings to the people of Liberia. I have two friends in Liberia, both of whom have spent some time in hospital. And one, I mean, the common diagnosis that actually came between both of them was malaria and typhoid. Malaria and typhoid, both individuals, malaria and typhoid. And then when you look at it, there's no way you can tell me that the flooding did not have an impact. Malaria has always been in Liberia as long as I can remember, because we are a tropical place. So you have a lot of mosquitoes and all of these things taking place. But this year, like I said, it is very high and people are getting sicker. People are getting not one diagnosis, but double diagnoses. And people are just in diagnosed. I don't know. It just seems as though everybody goes to the hospital, they come by, they say typhoid and malaria. That's the newer trend in Liberia. And so I want us to look at the medical impact that it will cause the everyday people. We are talking about a country again that does not have, I'm trying to be very careful here, that does not have the medical facilities to be able to treat people, I mean, or to even have ambulance to rush people to hospitals. Malaria can be acute. It can be acute to a point where it can kill people if it is not properly addressed. So let's look at the medical impact of that before we come to what can the government do to really improve some of the conditions we see in the country.
Yeah, and the first thing is that when this situation happens, whether it's flooding or hurricane, it is those who live in the swamp communities, which often would be people who have in Africa, often people who are from low income homes that is affected. When I was in Monrovia, there were several times the bourgeois island was cut off. We had people, those who were working around Clarendon, Valentine area. If you are working with those people who are living in those areas, they experience a lot of those things that rain go into In fact, a friend of mine had to move from the house that they were staying in to get another. I can't believe that the water had community to move into another community because of the flooding, because the house was totally overrun by water. So now, as you said, that brings malaria. It brings it as the water is moving. It's also taking sewage. It's taking dirt. It's taking it's taking the dirt that is on the street. And we all know that Monrovia is known as one of the city that has a high density of unprocessed or unprocessed dirt. So you have dirt almost everywhere in the country. As this places the Douala, big market area. If you drive just on the Simple Bridge and you stand on the Simple Bridge, you see the plastic bags and other things on the new bridge. When you're crossing the new bridge, you see the plastic bag on. So when you have a flooding situation, all those dirt are leaving from all those sewage that the dirty water, the sewage, and everything is moving from uphill, coming downhill into the swamp communities. And then you have people who are low income people living in those swamps community. Therefore, one, the house is overrun. So because of that, the kids are subjected to malaria, to typhoid, to waterborne diseases that go beyond malaria and typhoid. And therefore, there's an increase in the medical situation. There's an increase in people losing, young people losing their life. because of the situation of not being able to control the water situation within the country. So yeah, I agree with you on that point, and that's why we should consider. Sometimes we are just looking at the water alone, the flooding, and we say, oh, but water must have a path. Water will always make a way to move. Whether it's to move your building or whatsoever, water will always move. And that movement from the city, for example, what we saw in front of the Monrovia City Hall, that water from the Monrovia City Hall have to go somewhere. And at the end of the day, it's going into the Swam area, going down into Plonko or P4P, down all the way in into the Bannersville area, the Dole community. And that's the reason why we saw those communities being overrun. And majority of the people who live in those communities, they live in houses that cannot withstand the pressure of water, and they live in homes that are susceptible to erosion and other things that is taking place.
Yeah, and then the second impact I really want to go to just kind of highlight also, again, our everyday Liberian, I just keep stressing this point. You may be involved in politics, and maybe the politics is what you want to hear, but you don't want to hear about these different little things. But this actually impacts your health in such a way that you have young people are getting sicker, people are dying, people are getting sick and sick and sick. And the two friends I made mention to, if those individuals did not have small money in their pocket to seek medical attention, I mean, by this time they will still be laying somewhere just getting sick until the pastor went, and then they say, oh, they wish the guy. I mean, somebody poisoned his drink. But these waterborne diseases are very, very serious, and especially in Liberia, in our city, where most of the people still use drawing bucket to draw water from the well. Now, when the flooding takes place and you have the flooding overrunning those lowland area, that same flooding water goes into the same well you're drawing from, and because that it actually, I mean, cholera, that would be something on the rise. I've spoken with people in preparation for the show, spoken with people. A parent told me that, the little children just keep toileting. So I told her, I said, Mom, that sounds like cholera to me. I'm not a doctor, but basically you can know. Waterborne disease, all these bacteria, people are drinking from that same well. It is a serious health hazard in the country. But the second part I want to kind of address here before we go to the other segment of the show is the economic impact. Anytime you have this flooding, there's an economic impact that actually takes place in the country. Whether it's in Cape Mount, I think we have a video here from Cape Mount, whether it is something in Grand Bassa or in Montserrado, the economic impact cannot be measured because we don't have data. We can measure it. You are very fortunate. What we said, just the hurricane that just took place, people are saying it is in the tens of billions of dollars. That's a serious thing. But the economic impact in Liberia, sometimes people don't even have the chance. They are sleeping at night when this thing happens. People don't have chance to even go in their houses and pick up something. And the flooding, I mean, that little belonging they have, it floods. And so let's talk about the economic impact that flooding actually caused our people in Liberia. And what is the government doing to correct those things?
Well, we don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that it affects the economy. First of all, everybody that lives in Monrovia and have an idea of what Monrovia is, you definitely know that the road between the free port of Monrovia to the Gabriel Tucker Bridge is bad. It's one of the worst roads in the country. Is unpliable. When we're driving one side of the road, it's the other side of the road. The right side of the road, the side of the road opposite the LPRC or the National Port Authority, that side of the road was flooded. Almost every day was flooded. So many drivers did not take the risks. That's one. Two, the potholes are extremely dangerous. So many of the drivers side the road in order to get some space, even though there were potholes that we had to negotiate. So the picture I'm trying to draw here is that we have the free port of Monrovia. When we were growing up, they used to say the gateway, the gateway to the country, the free port of Monrovia. is at this area where you have where the roads are bad and it's flooding. So imagine if I have to drive if it's going to take me 2 hours to navigate from Cry Hill to get to Freeport, that is a lot of time. That's the time. The vehicle I'm driving is going to go on a stress. So imagine what the importers are going through. What those trucks driver, those first of all, we seem to be having a serious problem of having first-hand logistic vehicle in the country. So most of those trucks that carry the containers from the port seem to be highly handicapped trucks. So you can imagine, we had a situation where in Clarendon one of those trucks fell. So you can just imagine the level of the traffic level, and so that in alone you can find the impact, because those people who taking the containers from the port of Monrovia have to battle with going through a part of the country that the roads are unpliable. So it's easy to. Then we have the refinery company. the LPRC is also in that same area, and so if you cannot have if moving petroleum products and moving containers from the port is extremely difficult because of flooding and difficulty of the road, you can definitely the businessman, I had one of my bosses who used to tell me that, Emmanuel, we are not for profit, but we're also not for loss. There is no businessman that is in business to loss. It's a capital. So that business person is going to put the cost on the consumer. So definitely, I want to assume that the cost of goods during a rainy season in Liberia will be a little bit higher than the cost of goods and services during the normal situation. But not only that, we also have the video that the Front Page Africa was playing about the Rabos International Airport and how the intensity of the water was affected. And we have a lot of Liberians females, majority of them are females. That was I'm saying Liberian females that travel to Ghana, Dubai, to China, bringing goods through the Rabos International Airport. And if you have a situation like that where the goods will have to go through a part of the airport that is flooding and water have to go through, they are going to lose a lot of money. They cannot sue the Liberian government for the damages that is going to happen to the goods when they bring in the country. So therefore, they're going to pass on that responsibility to you and myself. So yes, it definitely affects the economy. We had the Rabos International Airport is going through its own situation of the rain entering the building. We have the situation of the roads to the Freeport of Monrovia being completely unpliable most of the time, and added to that, it's flooded on one side, and that's the gateway to the country. And then the Liberian Petroleum Company has its gas storage center in that area. So definitely, yes, there will definitely be an impact on the economy.
Yeah. Basically, and I think this is what. But look, Dr. George, this will actually surprise you. But in preparation for the show, I tried to call some of our friends who are in government, and I think you guys did see my messages. Reach out to them, and I'm thinking this is your area. I'm not going to say that name because they declined. I said, this is your area. I would think you want to come on the show for us to talk about this flooding issue and see how. And they were like, no, that's not my area. That's not my place. That's the other person's area. And I reach out to the other person, just like, oh, I will see if I can show up. So it just seems like people do not want to talk about this, but the everyday people, though, they are the ones suffering. They are the ones going through this. They are the ones getting sick. They are the ones actually going through the whole process of losing everything they have. One of my, the community I used to live in the Logantown area, the flooding got so bad that, the people, one of the old ladies that I knew in that particular community, the water was actually to her knee level in her house. To her knee level in her house. She stood in the water. She took picture. Her children took picture, and they sent it to me. And I said, "Wow, this. How do you sleep? How do you stay there?" Now, the best thing that she was doing, she was coming now to Central Monrovia to her daughter to see if she can stay there for a little bit until the water recede, and then she can go back home. But when she goes back home, what is she going to? What is she going back home to? Diseases, sewage that have been deposited in her home from that water, and she is also going back home to a well water that have already been ran over. I drank from that water, that well, when I was in Monrovia, when I was in Liberia. So I mean, I'm not saying things that I don't know about. And we have seen the videos, but we don't even have to watch the videos. A lot of you in the states, you have family members, and lots of you have properties that were destroyed in our country. And again, we're trying to be, at least for me, I'm trying to be very, very, very subdued here in such a way to make sure that the government, at least, they can put people in place to make sure they address this issue. We should, I mean, and to the citizens in Liberia, we should not only protest. I said this last week. We should not only protest when the price of rice go up. We should protest when we don't have good healthcare facilities. We should protest when we don't have stable electricity in the country. We should protest when our flooding situation is so bad that we lose everything and our representatives don't even want to know. We should protest about that. That is the thing that we should be doing. In every community, you have community chairman, you got community leaders. And if those community leaders, they are handicapped, there's nothing they can do. The representatives, they can drive in their big cars and they will drive in that same water where their constituents are sitting in, houses flooded, people got their mattresses, bringing it on the street, and those representatives cannot even mention that in legislative section. They don't talk about that. That is not what they want to talk about. But they want to talk about, we're not going to return the car. We're going to keep the car. We're not going to return what the government. And those are the things that the everyday people, unfortunately, come 2029 or come election year, the same people will be brought back to power. Because Liberians, for some reason, we have not learned the lesson that we deserve more. We keep bringing people in position who are not doing right by us. And so that before we go into the government part, let me bring Dr. Positive in. Dr. Positive, I want you to add your voice to this.
Yeah, so I want to thank you guys for discussing such an important topic. You know, I live near the swamp in Liberia, and I was there for almost 20 years before I left the country. And for that 20 years that I was there, we never had flood. You understand? And what is killing Liberia now is two things: a lack of plans to prevent or to remediate situations that may happen likely in the future. And the second thing is how you call it, negligence on our people part, people in leadership to just forget everything that's supposed to be done to make things right. And I just want to share this a few images with you guys. Then I can conclude on my point. The first one here is talking about river plains. Flood is important in its own right. When I was doing my research, it said flood is important for the environment. But if you don't protect it, if you don't do things to prepare for it, it becomes destructive, right? So like Texas have areas that they have designed specifically to handle flood, right? So this is one of my favorite places that I go in Dallas. It's called the Margaret Hunt Bridge, right? It's a pedestrian bridge. If you see the top here, this is us walking around July 26th or July 4th. This is where I go for Independence Day. But under here, doing like the Red Cross will have runs, right? People go there and run, but they run under this bridge. Now, during the rainy season in Texas, this whole place, the water fill this whole bridge up. You understand? And you can't go there. That become a no-go area. So Texas and other cities are preparing for flood over time. They don't just sit and say, oh, we'll wait when the flood comes, when it destroy people's homes, then we put more money towards it. No. Unfortunately for us in Liberia, we don't have insurance, right? So right now sitting in my house, if flood were to get in, if my house will get flooded, at least my insurance will pay something, then it increase my insurance the next month. But at least I will get something. I will get something. But Liberia, when your house get flooded, that's it for you. You have to start from scratch. If you had anything in your house, you have to start from scratch. And then the second thing I just wanted to highlight, if we look at Liberia itself, the landmark of Liberia, right? Liberia is almost surrounded by Monrovia, central Monrovia itself is almost surrounded by water, right? And because Monrovia, central Monrovia is almost surrounded by water, we have to protect the floodplains. And people now are building in the swamp. The places that used to hold the water when it rains is no longer there anymore. So when the water comes, the water don't have nowhere to go. You understand? So that's what is impacting Liberia badly. And somebody in government have to say, hey, we have to have floodplains because it's good for the environment. It helps to protect our communities from flooding and make sure that people don't build in those areas. And like I said, for almost 20 years, I lived in Liberia. We never have flood. But last year or the year before, my house, for the first time, my father's house got flooded. Why? Because everybody building on that floodplain on the airfield. We had a drainage system that ran behind Sima School. People started building in that drainage system. And because people started building in that drainage system, the water has nowhere to go. So now everybody in that little community are being impacted.
Thank you, Dr. Paul, today. I appreciate it. And so, Mr. George, I want to come back to you, though, because what I want to do at this point in time, like I said, I think I open the show by saying, look, I don't think we are here to throw blame and say one administration, because like I said, the last 5 years, it has been very, very serious. You know, the flooding situation has been going up. It has been going up, and every year just intensify in the intensity of the water. And so what we want to kind of look at, though, are there things, you know, I was going to pick a bring and say, do we have insurance in Liberia? But Stephen already said we don't have insurance. So I'm not going to worry about him. But, but you know, are there things, little things? I'm not asking for big things. I'm not asking for the big picture thing. You know, you can prepare as much as possible. You know, some of these disasters, you really cannot over prepare for it. I mean, with all the technology, with all the satellite images and all of the technology we have in this country, you know, today a whole state is laying completely desolate. I mean, yeah, almost a city is gone, you know, and people have to start over. Every year we see this happening in the US and other parts of the world. So I am not too much about that, but I want to come back to our little sweet Liberia. I want to come back to our sweet little Monrovia. What can we do? Because our people will get sick. Our people will die. Here, when flooding takes place, people will say, you're comparing Liberia with the US. I don't want to do that. But what I want to do, at least the local government, they got something in place to help the people. The Red Cross will come in and say, look, we'll relocate you here. And other organizations will come in and say, we'll do something for you here. When I did my research, I didn't find anything that Red Cross were locating people. Red Cross was just giving a report and said, look, over 3,500 people are displaced and people are getting sick, and the vulnerable women and children are the most impacted. I saw the Red Cross report. I didn't see where they say we're taking you to the YWCA building or the YMCA building on Crown Hill because flooding doesn't take place. What can we do as a people? I'm talking about the government. What can we do? What little things can we do? The first one I want us to talk about is zoning laws. Stephen kind of brought that to my attention. Zoning laws in our country, when it comes to building, what can we do as a people? Mr. George, let me start with you.
Yeah, we can do a lot. And I want to thank my brother Stephen for bringing out a beautiful picture of Texas.
I love
it. So that's great. But yeah, we can. There are simple things we can do. I mean, you don't want to get government involved, but there's no way we can get government involved in this in this situation because somebody is being paid. You see, in 2005, when the Johnson Sirleaf, Madam Sirleaf government administration came in, many of us started buying properties on the Rawalpindi Highway. And the reason being that we know Monrovia were expanding, we know the city were expanding, and we felt that by leaving the city and going towards the Rawalpindi Highway and the other areas, that would be an opportunity to develop and expand the city gradually and help this situation. But you won't believe it. Now, when you drive on the Ralphie Highway, it's as if to say that people there's no control. There's no the zoning law you're talking about is on the books. When you go to the Ministry of Public Works to build, you have to have permission from the Ministry of Public Works according to our laws. You have to have permission for the Ministry of Public Works for the kind of structure you want to build in particular part of the city. But I'm not sure many of us go to the Ministry of Public Works, nor am I sure that the Ministry of Public Works has inspector in the fields to make sure that we are building according to the zoning law. So people build into the alleyway. And if you build in the alleyway, water must find a way. You cannot stop water from moving. It must find a way to move. We live in a country where we have 6 months of continuous rain. So what is happening to our thinking that we're not going to have this flooding? We have been having it for a while now. I remember Stephen was young; he didn't experience it in 20 years. He stayed there, but it has been going on in Liberia for at least the last 10 years. And the reason why it is going on in the last 10 years, because after the war, Monrovia was built for a population of what? Between 150,000 to 500,000 people. We now have a population of 1.5 million people to 1.7 million people living in that city. And those 1.5 to 1.7 million people are living in homes that people are erecting without any structural sense. So you can definitely see people building in the swamp without putting water around the house. What you expect the water to go where it flows? You build a house in the swamp. You don't have any outlet for the water. What do you expect? And that's what we are experiencing in the country. Then there is a second group of very smart Liberians that seems to be idiots. That very smart Liberians that build their houses and cement the yard. You know, they build the houses, they cement the yard. They have no water. The whole compound is where you expect the water to pass. Then they put fence around the house. They put fence around the house. They have no outlet. And then these very smart building Liberians are thinking that why is it that the flood is taking place when you built this house, cemented the yard, and you don't have any outlet for water. 6 months in Liberia is every year. For 6 months there is going to be continuous rain. Between June and July we have the heaviest rainfall in our country. So you would think that after we have grown up in this country that have only 2 seasons, dry season and rain season, we'll be smart enough with the technology of how we build our land, how we build our houses, and that our friends at the Ministry of Public Works, at the EPA, will make sure to go into the field to inspect these houses, because there's a law on the books. When you get to Public Works, they can give you the whole map of Liberia, my brother. They will show you where the road's supposed to be. But you get to part of Monrovia, people build roads and like this, that they build their houses, and as if to say someone thought for a long time, oh, I need a car to pass through this area. So they have a path that is the size of the car, maybe 2 feet on the side, 3 feet on the side.
Like George, I won't lie, but man, it's a serious thing. I don't lie.
Build these things. Yeah, we build these things, and yes, government has its own work to do. The people at Public Works, the people at the Environmental Protection Agency, they're supposed to have inspector on the field to make sure we are building according to the code. But those of us who are building also, you cannot build your house and cement the entire yard and fence the yard with the cement, and where you expect the water out. In 3 years' time, let me just tell those of you who have this big fence around your place, if the flooding continues in 3 years' time, the water is going to bring that fence down, and you have to build a new one. So let's start thinking critically. They have brick blocks now that you can put in your yard that allow space for the water to how to call it. That's the first thing. The second thing, and Stephen raised that point, Monrovia, you see, the natural law of nature, whenever the higher power, whether you are Christian, Muslim, whatsoever you believe in. Whatsoever you believe in, the higher power creates an area. He creates an area with the sense that there will be an opportunity to take care of the different situations. And as Stephen pointed out, Monrovia is surrounded by water. There are mangrove swamps all around the place. And the reason the mangrove swamp is there is for the mangrove swamp to absorb this water and then sift the water. That's the thing of mangrove swamp. It absorbs the water, sift the water, clean the water up, and make it good for drinking for those in different parts of the swampland. But what are we doing right now? We are destroying the mangrove swamp. We are building in the mangrove swamp, and somebody want to think that when you destroy the mangrove swamp, you won't have flooding in the city. There's definitely going to be flooding, and that's why those our friends at the Ministry of Forestry or whatsoever that is not Ministry of Forestry that is responsible for the environmental protection. We have to start protecting the mangrove swamp. Many of us spoke against it when the former government of President George Weah decided that they were going to put some kind of something for India into those mangrove swamps. Many of us spoke against it because the swamp is not, that mangrove is not there for no reason. It's serving a natural purpose of reducing flooding in the city. And when you destroy that natural outlet, you increases the harm to the environment. So that's the simple thing we can do as citizens. My brothers and sisters that are listening to me, when you're building your house, that don't put cement in the entire yard. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't happen by the end of the day.
You won't play basketball. You won't play basketball.
You said they're smart idiot. They're intelligent in some people.
You know what? Let me say this though. Let me say this, gentlemen. Basically, when you look at it, look, for as long as I live, when I left Logantown, I moved uptown, right? And I live, hey man, I don't want to I don't want to do this to my people. But I moved uptown. I was living right there on Front Street. From my house, you can look right down there, you see Waterside, you see West Point. And then from my house, you can also walk down Front Street, you're right there. So I live right there on Front Street. The house I used to live in, it was right next to Greater Refuge Temple Church. That little intersection there, my brother, that little intersection, I think it was Robert in front intersection. That little intersection there. Our house, there was not a day that we did not smell, dirty poo water. And I'm trying to put it bluntly. That sewage system was always leaking. And when I went to Liberia last year, I promise you, it was one of the first places I wanted to visit. When I went to that place, that dirty water was still running over there on that Front Street. That dirty water was still running there. And another place again, Dr. George, I want to bring your attention. I think that place used to be called the Police Academy or the police housing on Camp Johnson Road. So you have Houghton Drive, and then you have Camp Johnson Road. Those buildings are right there. I think they were police used to live in that building, right opposite the SDA High School.
Yeah,
that intersection right there. That purple water used to run when I was a student in SDA High School. When I went to Liberia this year, that place is still leaking purple water. And so let's talk about the drainage system, though. The drainage system.
Sherry, before you
make a point.
Yeah. But anyway, on those on radio station, let me give Liberia a business opportunity right now, right? As before the radio station drop off. Water is a good resource. In America, they're turning poo, the water that comes from the toilet, they turn it into water, they turn it into clean water, and they sell it. It has all the rain, the extra water that comes from the rain. We can send it somewhere, and that water can be turned into a, like even America and other places. That could be $1 billion industry for us. Because when it rains, I'll show you one more thing quickly so you guys can see here. In Texas, this is a place that people go in Houston, Austin. You go here, everybody go there to swim and send them to these kind of places. And because of that, every summer throughout the year, people go to this place to swim. For Liberia, if we don't have an aqueduct system, if we don't have a reservoir to collect the water, we can try to figure out how to turn these countries that are in Africa and even in the West, other places that are landlocked, like Chad and other places that are landlocked, we can sell them water from that. But we have to build systems to collect the water. Some of us who think we got money, we won't step in the water. We won't step on dust anymore, so we build cement around. Well, let's be like Ghana. Everybody that decides to build a house should have the water system. In fact, the water first. That everybody house that build house connects to that water. You understand? Of land, the city or the state, the government should put the starting road, put the water that if you build your house has to be connected to that water. Then going forward, at least the water will have to go.
We got 3 minutes to drop off air. So
yeah, basically, I think the conversation got really intense, and for some reason, we did not announce the number. But we do have a phone number. I guess we have few time to take some call. If you're in Liberia and you want to add your voice, 088-650-0104. I don't know if I'm announcing your numbers correctly. I know you guys have a specific way to announce it, but 088-650-0104 or 0776-104-104. You can call those numbers to add your voice to the conversation. And if you're watching us live, you will see the number on the screen as well. You can definitely give us a call. But this is a new partnership we just started with the radio station in Liberia. So it's the very first airing. Next week, by the grace of God, we will be able to actually have them go live. So I think we still have 1 or 2 minutes to be able to take some phone calls if you want to do that. But speaking of the drainage system, Mr. George, I think the drainage system needs to be, the city needs to be redone. There are a lot of countries, I know that's an expensive thing to kind of think about. There are a lot of countries in the world that are actually relocating a city. The city of Jakarta, which is the capital city of Indonesia right now, they want to relocate the entire city. They're moving it out. They're moving somewhere else because of the same flooding system in Asia, in Jakarta. They're moving that particular city, and they are building it out. Their target is 2045. They should have a new capital. And